A very good afternoon to all the participants who have joined, and good afternoon, Dr. R.S. Praveen Kumar, sir, for Namaste, and welcome to the 17th episode of Teen Sawal, Teen Question. Just to give you a little background about this particular Teen Sawal, Teen Question, how did this all arise? Because a lot of people asked me that there are so many webinars happening, and why are you doing this particular webinar? I was just telling them a very interesting thought that this was not conceived because of COVID. This got conceived some 16 months before, and this is being the 17th episode. So we have every month on the last Sunday, if there is something very specific happening, like cricket match or anything happening, I'm trying to push the Sundays. Otherwise, I think it's typically on a last Sunday. I do this particular session exclusively for the teachers. When I left CII, one of the questions which was asked to me in one of the forums by the teachers was that nowadays you have started spending more time with school managements, principals. You're not spending time with the teachers. So why you have done this? So at that particular forum, I had promised this particular teacher a couple of years back that I will do a program on Facebook Live, and this is one particular medium which is free of cost available for people, and anybody can come in and join from anywhere across the globe. And in last 16 months, what I can say, we had all kind of people who have contributed for the teacher and for the education. We had people like Mr. Jaswinder Singh from Punjab, whom you're aware of. We had Datta Warrior, whom you're aware of. We had Dr. Balasubramaniam from former academic director of CBSE. We had Anand Kumar on this particular program. So you name a person who has contributed to the sector and how exactly this whole journey has taken up. So we have been kind of trying to put across this particular activity. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on your new promotion as Additional Director General of Police. That is your secondary role. I know that very, very specifically, that your heart lies with education, and surely we will have certain thought processes. But just for the participants who have joined for the first time, you can start typing out your questions on the comment form. We will take the questions from there. You can share this particular videos on your own timelines, and you can talk about it. The same video will be available for the participants who are not able to join today, and we will be sharing this particular link with the schools which have, or with the institution. The second point on the sharing part of it, you are authorized to download this particular video and show it to your teachers for motivating them on your continuous professional development. But as promised to you, that this particular session episode of ours, you will surely hear lot of thought processes of Dr. R.S. Praveen Kumar. Just to quickly introduce, because this is a protocol requirement for me, Dr. Rapela Shiva Praveen Kumar was, basically from forest region of Alampur, Mahbubnagar district in Telangana, earlier Andhra Pradesh. And most interesting thing was that his both the parents also worked as a government school teacher. And I think it is very, very important to understand that the journey, what he has tried to look at it. When I was trying to browse through first time his Twitter account, he had written something very, very interesting called as Faros. And that is something which, gave me a lot of thought process, that how much alumni recognize the contribution of his or her institution, which is very, very critical. And that too on a role which Dr. Praveen Kumar has kind of, taken up. Today, when you try to talk about, whenever we try to talk about Dr. Praveen Kumar, his and my acquaintance is not of last couple of years. It is almost more than 8 years.
Yes.
Once when I was in with the Confederation of Indian Industry, I got a call from their office saying that there are around 34 participants, principals who would like to attend a conference in Bangalore. And they're all traveling from Telangana, Andhra Pradesh Residential Education Society at that particular time. So there were 34 people who were kind of coming into that particular program. I was a little shocked, because I have been one particular person who has been working with government sector quite a lot on public education space. And every time I had to request the civil servants, please send your people for exposure. And suddenly I get a call, and then I get around 30-35 people coming in to participate in that particular program. I think it was so overwhelming. And it was so, thoughtful of Dr. Praveen Kumar that he traveled himself for that particular conference to Bangalore. He spent some time with us. He had lunch, and then he flew back on the same day evening. This talks about the commitment towards the change, what he has tried to do it. But what is more interesting to be understood in this whole journey of his is that there's a huge list. There's a huge list. So he has placed two avatar, according to me. One as an IPS officer, and in that particular avatar, I think he has, worked in very sensitive regions of Telangana and erstwhile Andhra Pradesh. Not only this, even when it came to Yugoslavia, outside the country, he had played a very, very important role. And as for the list of the medals, I think Police Medal for Gallantry Award, President Medal, Meritorious Service, Internal Security, United Nations Police Medal, Independence Day, and Joginder Singh Award for Transparency. And I think, sir, the list will continue, and I'm not going to get into talking about it. That I think people should do a little bit Google on you, and then come back to your page and then try to find out. First and the foremost thing, when everybody was talking about COVID, I saw in a small news item saying that a term called as VLC. You know, and when I looked at this particular VLC, it was somewhere resonating with my company name called as TLC. So I was just thinking, what is this VLC all about? And I wanted to really understand what is this VLC, and I went into the whole piece. And then I read that there is a community engagement with the children. That is where the stakeholder engaged with the people and then started working towards it. That was something which was a very, very interesting thing. What do you think, or what was the trigger point for you? Because all of us in in education space today are complaining so much about online education not available, technology tool not available, access not available, teachers not equipped about technology. All these things are something which people are talking about. What was the thought process, and how did this idea of VLC came in? And I would like you to talk about VLC with the expansion. I'm not even saying what VLC is all about. So,
thank you very much, Dr. Sendil, and then thanks everybody for joining this Facebook Live organized by Dr. Sendil. And then Dr. Sendil has not only been our friend, but he has been a mentor and then philosopher, and then guiding and exposing us and 10,000 teachers of our organization to the outside world. Otherwise, we were a very, very inward-looking organization once upon a time. So to start with, I consider as it's a huge honor. And to answer your question straight, I consider every adversity as an opportunity. And COVID presented us that opportunity. So Village Learning Circle has been a dream of social welfare and tribal welfare residential schools in Telangana, because it's not because of the COVID that we are starting this, but it has a very deeper philosophical and deeper convictions to start. COVID is only a context. COVID, or any adversity for that matter, is only a context in which we had to start this. But otherwise, right from day one, ever since we understood the deficiencies of our education system and then the challenges of our system, we thought, no, this is not the way we teach the kids. This is not the way we involve the stakeholders. So, and this is not the way we burden our teachers and we burden our schools. So today, our schools are, unfortunately, the entire parenting, entire primary responsibility of upbringing of child has been outsourced very conveniently to the schools. I think we have to give it back to the parents, because they are the primary teachers. They are the people who brought the child into this world. So no way a teacher can be doing everything what parents are supposed to do. So this is where the idea of village learning cycle came into picture. So then second thing that prompted us to start this village learning circle in a big way, not in a small way, but in a big way, was the sheer adversity, the sheer the constraints, the COVID-19 has presented to us. See, in March 15th, we had, a Janata curfew. And then after that, suddenly March 21 onwards, we had national lockdown. And then all the schools, we had to close. So we were not very keen to close our schools, to be very honest with you, because we were a residential school. I have about 450 residential school, 260 in social welfare, and 170 and odd in tribal welfare. And then we have many more residential schools. I think if you call something as containment zone, and then residential schools are the best and very well managed containment zones. And then my children are from the poorest of the poor communities, which they'll not be very comfortable in their homes. And then they certainly the food that I give to my children, thanks to government of Telangana, they won't be able to get poorest of the poor children. They won't be able to get that kind of food. Then I have a health supervisor, qualified health professional at place in my schools round the clock, 24 into 7. And then I have a command center which monitors the health of almost 3 lakh
All the
children
children, yes.
in the state, Panesia we call it as. So, and then we have medicine, we have no dearth of medicines. And then we have, we have strict access control protocols in our schools. It's not that easy to get into our schools. So we were not very keen, but government, it's not the question of only children, but it is a question of, the employees who come to school, and then employees who work as catering, and the employees work housekeeping staff, and then all other paraphernalia. So we had to close the schools against our wishes. So children had to go back. So then there was, like every, school management, we also scrambled for solutions. So one is, you have 10th grade examinations have not been done, and then only +2 examinations have been done by them, and 10th grade examinations suddenly abruptly got postponed, and then our all preparations for all national level competitive examinations also got postponed, and then again they went awry. So not only us, but every school management in this country, they scrambled for answers. So the first knee-jerk reaction was use the technology, send the children home, and the low-hanging fruit in the technology space was WhatsApp. To access WhatsApp, to access any social messenger, including WhatsApp, you need to have a smartphone.
Basic.
One is basic smartphone. Second is you need to have connectivity. Now I will answer this part of question a little later. But in our research, fast research, what we discovered, roughly 40 to 45% of our students did not have access to smartphones. Forget about connectivity, all this, did not have access to smartphones. And 10% of our students were the children of migrant laborers, and then the particularly vulnerable tribal groups who do not know what is connectivity. So 3G, 4G, whatever it is you may call, for them it is no G. Answer no G.
Correct. So I agree. Completely agree.
That was the kind of, you ask any question, they would say no G. So that was a kind of environment at least 10% of my students are living. Now, with this, how can I organize remote learning with my teachers' homes, no transport available, and only 50% of the students? And in every home, it's not that, the prosperous homes and class homes, they have at least 2 to 3 phones. Wife has phone, because double income group, right? So wife has a phone, husband has a phone, and then they can afford to buy another phone to children.
And that was also not accessible because of the lockdown everywhere. Exactly. People were struggling with.
Yes. Now, my point is, like, I have only one smartphone. Even assuming that 50% of my children have families have access to smartphone, but there was only one smartphone, and there are 3 children in home, or 2 children in the home who go to residential schools. So how do they share everything? So then we thought this is not going to, like, anyway, we will start as a, the first response will start, but within no time we realized that this is not going to work. So what we did was, then all of us brainstormed, like all our academic, managers, and then the innovation officers and the joint secretaries, everybody, all of us, we came together, and some of the outstanding teachers we took, and we called some of the parents. Then all of us, we huddled together and then brainstormed, and finally we stumbled upon the idea of giving it back to the parents and giving it back to the communities. But the question came up, who will organize this learning, and what is the reference point?
Correct.
So then, luckily for us, Government of Telangana generally prints all the textbooks for next academic year by April itself.
Okay.
Yeah, so all the textbooks are supplied to the depots, district level depots, by April itself. So what we did was, we convinced the district education officer, DEOs, and then we ensured that all the textbooks are supplied to the schools, and then these textbooks are religiously supplied.
Reaching village.
Yeah, they reach the households as well. Then we ensured that.
Okay.
So once we ensured that the school children have got the textbooks, they have received at least 80 to 90% of the saturation level, they got the textbooks. Then we decided, then we should tell the students, now we divided villages into different clusters, or we divided a mandal, a block, into different clusters where you have maximum density of the students who go to residential schools and the government schools as well. We gave a responsibility of running that cluster to the outstanding student, be it teaching assistant, be it super student, be it a green guru. We have this schema. I'll answer these questions a little later.
Little later, yeah.
So, but the students who had leadership skills, be it 7th grade, be it 8th grade, be it 9th grade, or 10th or intermediate, or you have a degree college students, all these kids have been given the responsibility by their teachers remotely. Look,
Okay.
this is the syllabus for this month. You don't have to teach the way I teach in the classroom. No, not required. And then this is the syllabus, and these are the micro level topics which I expect you to do in the most rudimentary form. You don't have to be a kind of very well researched.
It is more engagement rather than learning kind of a thing, which was very critical at this time.
Stay in touch with the topic.
Yes.
Stay in touch with the basics. And then ensure that there is no loss of learning. And then whether you do quizzing, whether you do antakshari, whether you do singing, whether you do teaching, whether you do anything, debate, discussion, whatever, but stay in touch with the topic. That's it. I don't want you to go to the deeper areas, etc., etc. So then the second question came up for village learning circles. Okay, fine, you do this, but where should they do it? Now you have COVID protocols.
Yes.
Sarpanch has been clearly told. The president or Sarpanch of the village has been clearly told that no gathering more than 20, no gathering more than 50, because we are in a community transmission phase of COVID-19 now. Correct. Those days are gone where you used to isolate all the people who came from foreign countries and then keep them in quarantine. The disease won't spread. Now that stage is gone. Now it has come to a community transmission stage. So every sarpanch is extremely alert, but every parent at the same time is extremely anxious, because there is no certainty that when schools are going to start, because the governments have to factor in a lot of other issues, not necessarily the anxieties of parents. So then we said, we convinced the sarpanches, look, we are not going to break the protocols given by the government. No break of the 50 rupee or 20 or 30, no question of gathering that much strength. A. B, then we will not allow anybody without mask. Then C, then everybody, whoever comes there must have a hand sanitizer or a soap and water available there. Okay. And then there shall be physical distancing. Okay. So no question of compromising on physical distancing. And then more than 10 to 15 people, we are not going to allow. Then the question came up, who will teach? Okay. Then the most competent teacher, classroom teacher will decide, and then he or she will give the syllabus to that. It's not rudimentary syllabus. I'm not talking about the serious syllabus. Then if there are certain teaching learning material, the student herself has to make and then present these lessons to the children. So that was the thing. Then the spaces, what are the spaces? Then nobody wants to do donate the spaces. Then I salute the beauty and then the creativity and the commitment of the parents and the village sarpanches. They gave agricultural fields. The religious leaders, they gave the temples and then the churches, the spacious. Then third is the verandas of the schools. Then then the courtyards of the the larger houses,
the community halls which are there.
Exactly. And wherever the number was increasing, the number was subdivided into groups of 4, groups of 5. And
so that you can't have more number of people.
Yeah, exactly. Kitchens were used, and then the courtyards in the homes were used, and the front verandas have been used. So like that, so everywhere the innovation picked up, and then I'm very happy. Within 1 month, the VLCs from Mir, we started this in Bellampalli and both of Adilabad district, remote Maharashtra bordering areas. From there, suddenly it became a wildfire. And then today we have about 10,000 village learning circles in Telangana running in different capacities, all supported by the communities. Everybody is taking the precautions, and somewhere or other, children are engaging. And then every day, the village learning circle in charge, we call him as commander, him or her commander, then the parents associations, they take the video of 2 to 3 minutes and then they send it to the class teacher. So class teacher assesses. So the July session is being over now. July is in the progress. The next month again we will give a session for August, etc., etc. So one important thing I wanted to tell you before I end on this VLC, one important thing, it's a win-win situation. Now all over the world, I'm following the conversation all over the world. More than the students, like the research is clearly saying, children are not going to be the serious victims of COVID-19. Time and again, research has in the last 6 months, it has been clearly told. children can be carriers, but that is also needs to be established properly. Because in
Okay.
France, when they did antibody test, and then whoever engaged with the children, not many places, they could transmit the disease to others. So that is also, the research is evolving. But the beauty here is, without teachers going to the schools, without teachers physically touching the children, and by just empowering the children and the leaders among the children, the teachers are able to transfer the knowledge that they think right, or that that is universally right, to the students without getting affected. So teachers are happy, teachers are safe, more than happy, they are very safe, and parents are slightly, their anxiety levels have gone down, and the biggest beneficiary in this is child.
Correct.
Children are learning, and then no major danger is there for them, and then they are in touch with subject, and then they are enjoying the learning, because they have got suddenly the authority which only teachers used to enjoy. So today, by the time they come back, now I have not done any baseline testing, I have not done any third party assessment as to how qualitatively they are teaching.
Effective it was.
Yeah. So, but that will take some more time, and moreover, that time is not very conducive to third party to do
Third
third.
party assessment.
I'm
Right.
not very in a hurry also. But when they come back, when I do baseline testing, probably I will know to what extent I have been able to, or we have been able to achieve our goal. So this is what VLC is all about.
Dr. Praveen Kumar, I have a I have picked up some very interesting points from it. One, what I have picked up is that the complete supply chain and has been established right from the printing unit till the child. The process of whole thing is amazing. Point number one. My second takeaway is that, as there is a proverb which says, to raise a child you need a whole village to come together. I think here the whole village came together, and that is, I think, something which is a very, very important. Third thing which reminds me of my school days was, there used to be this teachers day. On the teachers day, typically we were supposed to become teachers and take classes of 12th class children were supposed to go to other classes.
We do it
Yeah.
even today.
Yes. So that particular practice of really giving that one day of only making them teacher was actually very, very motivating. I think we should thank COVID. It's a boon, I should say. In COVID times, the students kind of things which have they have started working. And what I appreciate in your whole model of this VLC is that the peer learning model.
Yes.
The peer learning model, because I know of your institution, and I'd like you to touch a little bit on that also. You have been already having some methods where the children were taking classes for the others.
Yes.
So can you touch upon that? Because the peer learning model seems to be working quite well as per whatever I have kind of gathered from you. So how many such VLCs may be there right now across, Telangana, according to you?
Around 10,000, I would say.
Around 10,000. Okay.
Like 7,700 in social welfare, about 3,000 to 4,000 in tribal welfare, about 10,000 VLCs, and every day their number is increasing. A lot of parents are coming forward. So
I should recognize you and your complete leadership team, your DEOs, education officers, principals, the school, teachers,
regional
coordinators, the whole people in the structure who kind of made a difference here. Otherwise, if those people in the supply chain somewhere, one person would have gone, I think the whole effectiveness would have failed.
Their role has been extremely crucial, because not every, like some places, children started using almirahs as blackboards.
Okay.
Some they started using the doors of the kitchens as blackboards. So there are certain issues. So our teachers, they gathered money, and then they used the locally available funds, and then they ensured that they get at least the hanging blackboards, and then the pieces of chalk. As such, schools are not running. So their role has been extremely critical in this entire scheme of things. Yeah.
No, I want to tell all the participants who are joining here and who will be seeing that if you would like to see certain live videos, you can go and follow Dr. Praveen Kumar's Twitter page. There are a lot of videos which have been taken by the children, how exactly it is being done. It is available. I would also like to share some of those as part of on this particular, the Learners Confluence page, where you can kind of look at it. Because what I have understood is that if a teacher minds and a teacher decides, I think the community, he can gather the community and make a difference, right? So I think that's I want you to touch upon a little bit upon this model of peer learning model. Because you're already, this is existing in the schools which I'm aware of.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking this question, Dr. Sendil. I think a peer learning model is not a new thing. It's all over the world. We call it as collaborative learning. So, where, a lot of horizontal, transmission of knowledge takes place among the people of the same age group or people of the same class under the supervision of teachers. So, what we realized even in the very first year, because I'm an outsider, as I said, as you rightly pointed out, I'm not an educator, I'm not a
No,
guy.
I will touch upon that. Hold on that question. I will ask that separately. I'll get into that
All
separately.
right. So, but as an outsider, what I could see is the children have lot of energy. They have that innate need for expression. But unfortunately, our classroom designs are such that so they don't get any opportunity to speak. And then unfortunately, the evolution of a teacher in our classrooms has been like, I am a sage, I know everything, I'm a sage on the stage, and then okay, you have to listen to it. And then okay, if you have any questions, okay, you know what are the questions to ask, and then I know what are the answers to give. So otherwise, if there is no transaction, I'll write the questions and then you note down the answers, and then I'm going to ask the same questions in the examination, and then you're going to answer the same, you're going to answer, give the same answers, and then I give you full marks. There's a kind of match fixing between the students and the teacher. So, but that is not the education at all. So we realized it is, later we realized that it is, science also says something. Teaching is the best way of learning. In the conversation, you converse on a subject, you debate, discuss on a subject, even if for 10 to 15 minutes in the classroom, that would be really nice. Then we realized somewhere we had to start. So we thought, why don't we start with the students who are already outspoken, who are extroverts, and then who are raring to go in the classroom. So instead of suppressing all their needs, then let us give them an opportunity. So slowly, we started giving teaching assistant position to all the students. Right?
Teaching assistant, okay.
Assistant. Even in some universities also, you don't find this teaching assistant. Many of our Indian universities, in government universities, I don't know about private universities, but government universities, you don't find such kind of innovations. But we said no. Every student who is equally capable, like if not equally, at least some he has some capacities. Let us give him or her teaching assistant positions. So what does he have to do? Like after teacher teaches, again she will summarize, and then she will pick up, she will organize class into 2 to 3 groups, and then she will again administer, and then she will do remedials also for the, the students who are facing difficulty. So we got a lot of confidence and children started enjoying this. Then we slowly went to super students, like we have a Mana TV session. So we have a Telangana state television, satellite television. So wherein we thought our students, like you said, on Teachers Day only we teach. Now we said, why can't every day be a teacher? They are every week, one day can be Teachers Day. So we gave a lot of opportunities for the teacher students. We gave them the topics. Okay, now you decide upon this topic and then come with your own lesson. So and practice well and then come back. And then we told teachers, look, I will assess your capacity to teach, not by your teaching, but by the ability of your students to teach themselves.
Correct.
That changed entire paradigm.
Okay.
Now, after we got enough confidence, super students, now this is the 7th year of super student experimentation, wherein our students go to live television in Telangana state, and then they teach entire state of Telangana after preparation. So then, they get 1,500 rupees per hour. That is earn.
So there is a financial angle also to this particular
thing. Earn while you learn program. And then we don't give earn while you learn. So you earn about 1,500 rupees per hour. When you teach the state of Telangana, you have to take question. It's not that you teach and go. No. You have to take the question from anywhere in the state, and you have to answer. The more right questions you have, then I give you more bonus marks. So then fourth thing what we did was, like, we got really a lot of courage, and then we got confidence, and then we said, why can't we divide the class of 40 into 10 quartet groups? Okay. So each quartet will have 4 people with different levels of learning. And then with brighter student, and then a little less brighter, and then one average, and then one below average student, and with various learning paces. So all these people will sit together, and then they start understanding. They start, after teachers listen for about 20 minutes, suddenly they form into the groups, and then they start conversing. They start helping each other. In the study hours in the residential school, children are going to be with me, so I have an advantage that the children are going to be with me completely for 220 days. So I wanted to take this captive system to an advantage, and then we created quartet groups, and then quartet groups in the evening after dinner, they started conversing, they started learning by discussing with each other for about 1.5 hours. So quartet groups have become the cornerstones of our education experimentation.
Correct. Good.
So that's how their teaching, learning, capacities, got improved among the students. Yeah.
Doctor, I know that I think one of the things which I would like to share with all the audience who are kind of also here. I've been trying to follow this particular group for almost 8 to 10 years. And luckily, I think we have an engagement with each other and we have been trying to challenge each other. And he's been always saying to me that what are the institutions that which we can visit? And it is not only that, to go there, what is being experimented? Can we get that? Can we try that? And I think that's something very, very important. But one point which you said, I think I wanted to share with everybody that Dr. Praveen Kumar himself, I think every Thursday you meet all the student leaders of all these schools. One day, I think you spend
we we have a quarterly a video conference in the absence
quarterly.
of teachers. In the absence of teachers, we meet all the student leaders every quarter over video conference. Like hundreds and hundreds of student leaders will come, and then they will interact with all of us, and then we have almost a green channel with all the student leaders. Like whenever they want to talk to us, they can talk to us, but there is a mandatory video conference with all the student leaders every quarter. That is mandatory for us.
Okay, so that the communication is
Yes,
transparent and everybody knows
definitely.
about, and if there are good practices which can be also taken by something.
Absolutely. And the beginning of the year, we have a 3 days mandatory training program for all the student leaders.
Oh, very good. So there's a
They have
leadership training program which they have to go
yes.
through it. So
What is being responsible. Our schools are divided into 4 houses. So each house has about 10 to 15 leaders in different areas. So all these people come together at a regional level and then state level. We have a serious training program. We call school council training program, and we partner with outside organizations, and we give them a lot of skills. And then as a result, our students have gone to different universities, and then
no.
there they are exhibiting a lot of leadership skills, both in academics as well as non-academic.
Yeah, just for the sake of the participants who have kind of come in, he has triggered that question. I wanted to hold back a little later, but I think I just wanted to say a success of an institution is typically where your alumni are.
Mm.
Because it is not just the score is at good level to certain level, how the students are performing. That is something which is very, very important. And when I try to look at the, I had the opportunity to understand and interact with them today. Around 86 students are there. I think, correct me, Dr. Praveen Kumar, in case if I say somewhere less,
Yeah, yeah.
that numbers, if I go wrong somewhere, I think you may have to correct me. I think around 86 students are in IIT, 144 in NIITs, medical and dental sciences, 168 students are there in Delhi University, where people say that it is very difficult to get
We have
150.
220 in Delhi University.
220. See, that's why I said I may do some wrong. So probably I think you need to look at Central University around 46, JNTU Fine Arts around 89, Ashoka 3, where I think people struggle to get admission. Flame, these are all new universities. There are around 2 students, Kriya around 2, in TISS around 29, and lawyers, there are already 5 people who have cleared CLAT and into that. So what I wanted to drive out a very important point here is that the success of all these, the success of all these numbers, see, people can just get it once, people can get it just second time, people get it on third time. See, Dr. Praveen also, appreciates the initiative by Mr. Anand Kumar quite a lot every year, 30-30. He's a good friend and I keep fighting with him on many things like this on the numbers, but I think it's very important that how do you sustain these numbers? So what are some of the things you would like to attribute for these successes per se? Because I know that you have started some exclusive initiatives. So can you spell out some 2, 3 initiatives for the sake of the participants who have joined in this particular Facebook Live?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking this question. Yeah, I think the successes that you have just mentioned, yes, they are very important. But in my opinion, they are not too significant. For us, this is only a glimpse of what we do and the tip of an iceberg. But underneath that tip, a lot of other confidence. But okay, we need to have all these things also. We need to have students going into top-notch institutions, and then they have a better probability of becoming leaders, and then the innovators, so on and so forth. But One important thing what we do is instead of we driving the students, now we are at such a stage, we are in a community transmission stage, even in the education also. No, we don't need to tell our students, look, you have to try for IIT. We
Correct.
don't need to tell you have to go for Delhi University. Sendil, Dr. Sendil, I wanted to, bring in this fact into this conversation that why we consider each and every entry into these top-notch institutions very important, very significant, because the kind of population that we deal with, the socio-economic profile of these populations, migrant laborers, the excluded people, former untouchables, and the victims of sexual abuse, broken families, and many children who get admission into, like I would say now we have about 120 students in Ajim Premji University. When the first batch was selected, most of them got into open competition. Let me tell you, it's not they use the affirmative action. No, when they got into these universities, some of them they wanted to drop out because they didn't have money to come to Hyderabad in a bus from a jungle in Adilabad.
Okay.
Adilabad is 300 kilometers away from my place, Hyderabad. So they didn't have money. Their parents did not have money to come to this place. Some of the girls did not have money to buy sanitary napkins. No, they did not have money to buy a proper chapel or 2 to 3 dresses. No, when such people with the sheer brilliance, with sheer hard work, when they get into your universities, then I think that is where this success is more, important. Even though when I see my numbers, they look very smaller for me because I'm ever
You're
hungry.
dealing with
So
lakhs together. No, the students' numbers, what you're talking
that's
about is lakhs together. So I
exactly.
can
But
understand. Yeah.
Blame University, Ashoka University, then you have Kriya University, you have Ajim Prem University. Then these universities and the University Hyderabad Central University, and these universities are not very popular in rural areas. Forget about rural areas, even urban areas in Bastis and other places also, these universities are not very popular. So such universities, like we have about 160 students so far who have gone to 7 to 8 countries on 6 weeks internship. What did they
Okay.
do? They went there to teach English to other countries where English is not an official language.
Okay. Good.
Poorest of the poor children, for the first time, girls went to these countries without an escort. Without an escort, international flight. We get scared to transfer in domestic transfers, airport to international transfers, domestic to international. We get scared. And then these people, they for the first time they crossed the district border. Came to Hyderabad. They came to Shamshabad International Airport. From there they went to Mumbai. Then they try another transfer. They went to Poland. Then they came back. And then this is how the children are evolving. So what we are trying to do here, you asked me about the meta process behind this process. The
Correct.
meta process behind this process is everywhere the students, in all our school walls and the school communities and the conversations in WhatsApp groups, the only success stories are painted. So there is a message saturation going on. Look, this girl has done that, this boy has done that, this brother has done that. You want to talk to him? Okay, we'll call him on WhatsApp, or you'll have a Facebook live with him, or you have a YouTube interview of that guy. So in the Saturday after movie or before movie, I will do this, and then you watch his interview. Suddenly, I am planting an idea and planting a seed for aspiration in the mind of a young child. Now, I don't need to tell you go to Delhi University, go to St. Stephen's College.
Correct. Correct. It's a peer.
No.
It's again the success what they are getting. That's very, very
Exactly. So this is what is happening. So my job has become little, less
easier.
now. So we are in a community transmission stage.
And I think positive vibes are always good to spread. Not COVID, but on the
one thing what I'm trying to do is, like, while I plant sow the seed of aspiration, I'm also giving the support. That's where the government comes into picture. Okay, you need coaching material, I'll give. You need the best possible coach. Okay, I'll train my teachers. Okay, my teachers are not capable to deal with that particular subject. I'll hire the best possible person in the open market. Or if I don't have that, I'll request people like you, and then request you to introduce us to people like Jaswinder Singh or Datta Warya or someone. So like that, I get the best, government permits me to do the best possible research, get the best possible resources and deploy them in the schools, even temporarily, so that our children get the best possible coaching, in the, in situ. Yeah, that is what we have been doing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this is very, very important factor per se as such that the initiative, it's like smaller initiatives which kind of snowballs into a bigger movement.
Yes.
I also wanted to ask you this particular part. How much do you think that the investment on school leadership actually helped you over the years? Then I'll come to teachers
Oh,
little later. Because leadership plays a very, very important role. So I know that you have taken multiple initiatives, given them exposure. Can you talk about a bit about that?
very much, very much. It is really, really immense. I have no words to describe the amount of transformation our school leaders have gone through. So in 2012, when I roamed around the entire Andhra Pradesh, and then I had the frustration of, had the frustration of my life, because none of them were aware about not many of them were aware about the opportunities, and then they have very low expectations, and then low self-esteem. They were neglected. The organization, in a larger part, they never saw these people as the thinking individuals, and then they had a lot of aspirations, and then they have a lot of creativity, and then given a choice, and then given the trust, if you trust them, they can do wonders. These kind of things were not there in 2012. So slowly, thanks to people like you, and then we partnered with many like-minded organizations, and then we selected the best of the principals, and then the people who are above average, and then we selected them, and then we subjected them to lot of trainings, and then we partnered with Indian School Leadership Institute, we partnered with the organizations which you showed us, and then we partnered with the, and then we had a Bharat Darshan. Now
Yes.
we had a Bharat Darshan of our school leaders. So we went to, Tamil Nadu, we went to Karnataka, then we went to Ahmedabad. Wherever there is a, like, we are a learning organization. We don't want to think that, we have achieved enough. Now come to us and then learn. No, 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 no. Every year we had annual principals convention, school leaders convention, and we called people like you, and then experts suggested by you. Then we discovered some of our own principals who are doing extremely good things, and then we gathered all the teachers, all the principals at one place, and then 2 to 3 days a brainstorming session used to take place, and we used to call all the leaders, and then share their experiences. At the same time, we developed the contacts with a lot of such outstanding leaders, whether it is Uttar Pradesh, whether it is Madhya Pradesh, wherever. So whether it is alternative learning, whether it is freedom learning, whether it is Sri Chaitanya Narayana or Rajasthan Kota type of learning, we wanted to see all the models and then take the
Then
best.
try to see what is it. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
take,
for the audience to understand. See, I had the opportunity once the first there was something called as Principals League. I think Societies League, which was
yeah,
done purely on IPL kind of a model. Last year, I think it was on TEDx. So every year, I think there is a new theme and the new format which gets created. And I think it's our privilege to be associated and trying to be helping in what little things what we can add value to that. And we have kind of assured sir also about how exactly this journey has to be taken. So one is the leadership part of it. The second is how are you trying to look at the quality of teacher when everybody is talking about challenges in quality of teacher? What are certain things that you have done at your institution?
this is a very important question and very difficult question indeed.
Yeah.
So the first thing I wanted to share my feeling with you is, and I want to be very honest in this confession. Nowhere in the world you get the best teacher. So it is very difficult to get, okay, every teacher is the best, and then I will select only the best teachers in my
Not
organization.
possible.
It's not going to be
Not
possible.
possible.
You have to draw these people from the ecosystem in which you are living,
Available. Correct.
available. Okay, so there can't be kind of teachers from heaven, or those
Imported.
kind of,
Imported in the system.
those kind of things you won't get. So we, of course, we have a separate recruitment board where the entry itself, we apply a lot of precautions and a lot of protocols, and our entry into our residential schools is not that easy, and then they have to pass 2 level examination, and then we have in some places we have an interview also, from lecturer onwards we have interview, principal also we have interview. So the entry is not very easy, point A. Point B, we have a very tough foundation course. Foundation course, George Varki and Prashanti and Ananta Lakshmi, people, Srinivas Reddy, these people run this course, and then the the foundation is very well designed. And then in foundation, we not only call the experts like you and experts in the subject, but we also call the parents. We also call the students who are alumni, and they come and then they share their experiences and their expectations with the teachers.
Right.
And 3 days of our foundation course happens not in the institutional setting, it happens in the communities. We call it as immersion. They go to the communities and then they stay there with the parents, and then they understand the ecosystem in which the child is being brought up.
Okay.
So that when the teacher enters into the classroom, she or he will be sensitive which kind of boy I am teaching, what should I expect, and then how should I raise the bar gradually. Should I be impatient? Should I be insensitive? Should I use capital punishment, or should I be judgmental, or should I lower my own way? Should I simplify my own way of teaching? Should I personalize the teaching? So all these things teacher has to evolve, unless teacher will evolve unless he or she has a first-hand experience of the ecosystem or the socio-economic status of the poverty or the trying conditions, traumatic conditions in which child is being brought. Otherwise, if you don't have that sensitivity, it is very difficult to give that. So the third thing what we do is, I said we are a learning organization. And then we all not only learn from outsiders, but we have some of the outstanding teachers. So we train them as resource persons, and these persons, they act as mentors to those people who are in need. And similarly, we have a new quality policy. Every year we have a new quality policy wherein every teacher has to give a seminar on the subject of her choice. So a mandatory seminar, so that they get a lot of suggestions from their own piece, not to punish them, but to understand what are their difficulties. This is another thing that is happening in the schools. And then we have a regional level workshops. Our regional coordinators, they have access to a lot of great resources. They get the regional level workshops, and then these regional level workshops help the teachers to sharpen their skills. So, and then we have we have academic inspections, and then all these things are there. But we also share whatever things we learn about the teachers with them privately. We don't we don't put a poster that so this teacher is A, this teacher is B, this teacher is C. And then we also encourage the teachers who are facing a lot of difficulty in teaching. Then we call them to a separate program, and then we give them a massive dose of capacity building exercise. So these are some of the things that and then similarly, this year we are planning to identify the most outstanding leaders in all the categories, whether it's trained graduate teacher or postgraduate teacher or the lecturer, and then we want to expose them to the best of the resources in the world, not necessarily India, because now we have online explosion. So we want to expose them to the best resources in the world, so that they can learn much better. And then because they are going to stay in the system for about 30 years, 35 years. So we want to invest heavily into such outstanding leaders in every category, not necessarily principals, but every category. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's something which is so. You think that the regular intervention, regular investment on teachers is very, very critical when it comes to the teacher's evolution as such. And the consistent exposure to that particular teacher is again very, very important. And this is where I think we really need to see that how exactly what is the right kind of training program. Dr. Praveen Kumar, I think on behalf of TLC, on behalf of myself, I would like to extend something to you and to your team out there. You can select some 10 principles. Okay, you can select the top 10 principles whom you would like to recognize, because it's very, very important that some kind of a recognition. See, people should not consider normally in government sector, people think, or public sector, people think that if you're sent for a training, it's like a punishment. But I would like to not call it as a punishment. We would like to, invite 10 people. You can send us, and one of your team members can just reach out to me, or I can kind of get in touch with them and try to get 10 principals who will attend a training program done by Finnish experts. We are doing a program between 10th and 14th, benchmark the Finnish teacher. It is all about student-centric and student-centric strategies, how exactly assessments can be done, how exactly these things can be done. I think we would be happy to, join your small, it may not be a big initiative, but a small initiative by adding, 10 more people. We would like to invite your leaders to join in this particular journey And please tell them that without any cost, there's no cost component. So I know that every time there's a cost in a government sector, it takes quite a lot of process. So you don't have to worry about that. They can join wherever they are in the country, and 10 to 14, between 2 and 5, they can be part of it. So that's something which
Thank
I
you very
thought
much for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate
because
it.
I think this is very, very important that like-minded people. Because while talking to you, I'm getting a lot of questions also which are coming up here. Like there is a gentleman by name Mr. Oda Kapoor. Mr. Kapoor, he says that interesting model. I need to explore more. There is a lady by name Kamala Kannan. She says, I have a question. I am an educationist. I also wanted to help children by giving responsibility to children to decide what they want to learn and how. I believe children are natural learners, but I don't have a position to influence government officials or work for a mission like yours. I can connect to 4 or 5 children to use the COVID-19 period to learn life skills. How can I maximize student to learn life skills from remote learning? So there is
She can
already
contact me. Thank you very much, Kamala ma'am. So you can contact me on my mail ID. Dr. Sendil has my mail ID, or
mail ID on this particular
our
committee.
George Workey is the innovation and academic officer. So he can be also contacted in his mail ID. But Dr. Sendil will have my contact decided, so you can always contact him and then get our mail, or you can also contact us directly. We'll be very happy to take your suggestions and then take your
Yeah,
help.
there is one. There are a couple of compliments which are coming up. Brilliant, Praveen Kumarji. Swiro is a great movement, a torchbearer of organic pedagogy. Thank you, Dr. Sandil. And there's a Albert P. Ryan who says that super student experimentation sounds nice. I think he's a press reporter too, so I will ask him to write something about it. There is a private school principal. She says, I don't want to mention the name, otherwise the school management, she will be jobless during COVID times. So I'm holding the name. But then what she says is that Dr. Sendil and Praveen Kumar sir, very useful session. Thank you. Some managements are not allowing us to educate the students, but want us to prepare them only for marks. So what is your advice to them?
I fully agree with you, ma'am. Unfortunately, that is a tragedy in our education system. So marks are not the criteria for assessing the students' ability, capacities, creativity, and the potential. Absolutely not. It should not be, and it must not be. So at every given opportunity, that's the reason why we have summer camps, and then we have summer projects, and then we have student-led programs, and then every time we are more extracurricular than curricular. And then of course we do concentrate on examinations, but not beyond a point. We don't want to tax our students with examinations. We don't want to judge the students based on their marks that they get in the examinations, certainly not. And then this year onwards, we are going to radically change the examinations also. We are going to give more application. If somebody gets a little less marks also, we are going to promote that kind of child, and then we are going to take care of them. And then education is not just a marks getting. We can be a good drama artist. We can be a very good sports person. We have almost 50 sports academies. We have mountaineering. We have the world's youngest female in our colleges, and she scaled Mount Everest at the age of 13 years. But nobody asked her what are her marks in English. Nobody asks what are marks in mathematics. No, because that child is different. So we have some of the best students in painting. We have some of the students who are actors. We are training them in acting. We are training them in cinematography. Then we have some of the best students in kabaddi. We have some of the students who are really good in chess. So we don't want to judge them on the basis of their marks, and they have a different trajectory. I think they will be successful, but we have to believe that they will be successful. Unfortunately, we are believing that only the 10 by 10 guys or 100% marks guys, only they become successful. Our experiences, no. For example, we conducted a lot of entrance examinations. You'll be surprised, Dr. Sendil, the people who got 10 out of 10, many of them could not crack our competitive examinations. Then what does that mean? Now, what I'm trying to say, getting 100% mark, getting 10 by 10 marks is not going to tell you that the student is really understanding what you want her to understand. So unfortunately, most of the managements are chasing only to impress the parents. So that's why in this COVID time, what we are trying to do, earlier also we used to do, COVID times, what we are doing is we are having a weekly Zoom training course in future parenting and responsible parenting for hundreds of parents every week. So we tell the parents specifically about what to expect from the child, and then how to be patient when the marks see some peaks and then valleys. So one should not get unduly perturbed about.
Disturbed by that.
Yeah.
And
So
just Devsena ma'am, I think I would like you to also understand that the Welfare Educational Society is running degree colleges
yes,
also, and they are preparing on a Kargil Divas. I think what can be a right thing to say is on a Kargil Divas, uh, they have armed forces training which is being given to the
we
schools.
have an exclusive college, India's first ever exclusive degree college for armed forces preparation exclusively for women. We have Major Usha Sharma, first Telugu lady to become officer in Indian Defense Forces. So that that Major Usha Sharma is leading the entire session, entire the college. She is the director there. And we have one Sainik school for social welfare, one Sainik school for tribal welfare. But India's first ever preparatory degree college for women for to enter into armed forces we have in Bhongir. So I'll invite everybody to have a look at it. Yeah.
So that basically, so it is not about only marks. It is also about fine arts. It's about music. It's
Yes.
about sports. It's talking about adventure. He's talking about sports. So you
Yes.
really need to look at it that it is not necessary that you have everybody to be the front runner only in academics per se as such. And I think it is very important that he himself coming from a civil services setup and then trying to contribute back. So that's where I think I appreciate your initiative, Dr. Praveen Kumar. I have a lot of questions which are coming in, which I will try to quickly take it up. The next question which is coming up to you is 1 minute, sir. It's a compliment. इतनी शिद्दत से मैंने तुझे पाने की कोशिश की कि जरा जरा नहीं मुझे तुझसे मिलने की साजिश की. When there is a will, there is a way. So I think
Yeah.
there's a way,
Rajesh,
people started putting the comments like this. So that's something
बहुत
very,
बहुत
very
शुक्रिया, बहुत बहुत
interesting.
शुक्रिया.
Yeah. And then Mr. Kapoor says education is something beyond the transaction. It will happen when we start thinking beyond the marks. And Preeti Goel says that hats off to you and your team, sir. I think that's something which is just kind of dropped in. But I think it's equally important. What I wanted you to talk about is uh, transforming an organization that too in a public education system. Why?
Mm.
That's why when I had to put the title for this particular session, I said it's a silent revolution. Why I called it a silent revolution was it was important that the successes cannot be immediately seen because the people think that it has to be a carpet of growth. What I personally believe is no. Every school has a maturity phase and they will grow at a different phase. They may require certain things. So with all the odds, I know that the kind of support what you have got from the government of Telangana, the chief minister, the social welfare minister, the education minister, and all those, council of ministers who have been working. In your own sector, I think the people I have seen them being part of many of the conferences, what I have attended, that they have been there and they have been, worked hand in hand with you. But one question which bothers me quite a lot. A person who has been IPS officer, okay, an IPS officer, who started from a very small village, a remote village, I should say, in a jungle. From there, Harvard, traveled to Harvard, and then wanting to come back to that village to contribute to that particular larger mass. What was your inspiration, and why did you choose a pen over a gun? People say that pen is something mightier than the sword those days, but now we talk about pen is important, and I think that's something which you are trying to talk about. But I would like to know this inspiration story of yours in your own words, because it's going to be important. It's going to be important for people to know. See, it's very easy that you are a civil servant and you can do anything in the bureaucracy, can do anything. That's what people normally think. But I think it's not very easy journey for you too, because when you traveled on this particular journey, you might have had faced a lot of things. So I'm going to just give you some, 5 minutes to talk about this beautiful journey, because we are already exceeding time, but I would like to hear from you that beautiful journey, because it should become inspiration not only for these principals who are attending and the participants who are there. But there are a lot of people who try to take this, download this, show it to their children and students. So I think it should become very, very important for them. So I would like to hear your story from you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sendil. So I'm really excited to answer this question. And many people have asked me this question for many years, but still I would like to answer this question. First thing is, I'm still a police officer. I wear uniform. I still have a gun, so I have not left my gun. So it's gun and pen, and both are good for society if they are used properly. Yeah, if they are used properly, and then both are required for the stability and the order in the society, as long as you use constitutional means. So I'm still a police officer. And then the second thing, what really prompted me to get into this education was, it is not a sudden, like a night I got a dream and then sudden next day morning,
Apple fall on the head and then you took it off.
I hang my boots and then I go to my senior officer, I go to my chief minister and, sir, please give me this. No, it's not like that. So it has been developing. It has been, the impatience, and then the kind of dissatisfaction, and kind of this anecdotal stories, the evidences that I get during the phase of my profession, police profession. So a lot of people, in the lockups you see, and then the victims of violence, and then you go to the crime scenes, you go to the jails, and then talk to the prisoners, and then in different functions, and then you see a lot of poor people, and none of the rich people, not many rich people, even in double digits also you don't find them. So, but in poor people are very hugely, there in incarcerated centers. Unfortunately, I think it's not their fault. It's because fault of the system. We have not been able to educate them properly. We have not been able to guide them properly. That's the reason why they are landing up in the jails and the lockup. That's one. Second thing is the story of my own mother. So my mother was a child laborer, and then in 1950s, and then India was just independent, and then two teachers, they rescued her, and then they took her to government school, and then she faced all the problems there, and then finally again she, with sheer grit and determination, she could become a teacher. Then later on to become a headmistress, and retired as a headmistress of a primary school, girls primary school. Then today she is a mother of an IPS officer. She's a mother of a doctor, an associate professor, and whatnot. So she has all the all her children went to good positions, and then she ensured that all her brothers also joined the government jobs at very good level. Only one lady, the eldest lady, got educated, and then later entire responsibility fell on my own mother to ensure that all her brothers also get into good colleges. I thought for a while, if one lady, one child laborer could achieve so much, not only liberating herself from poverty with the help of two teachers, and then she goes to become headmistress, and then is a very responsible sister and responsible mother and responsible wife, and then all of them put together, then they created so many successful people. And if that can happen with one child, imagine there are millions of children. Imagine there are millions of teachers in this country.
Right.
I'm not talking about the quality of teachers. I'm not. The quality of teachers is immaterial in this discussion.
Passion. It's a passion.
Genuine.
That fire in the belly. That's very important.
Junoon, a passion, a junoon of teachers. It's not the question of whether you teach well or doesn't teach well. That's okay.
The second part of it.
If you plant an aspiration, if you plant an inspiration, if you plant a desire in the mind of a student, even if you are a bad teacher, but if you are a good human being, so still the child will learn on his own, on her own. That's what my mom used to do. So that is what made her to create people like us. When one lady, one child could become teacher, and then could become this much, could achieve so much, imagine millions of children in this country, what they cannot do. Millions of teachers, what they cannot do. So I thought, gosh, I got so inspired with this story. So let me, and then third thing, what added fat to the fire was the Telangana agitation, separate Telangana agitation in 2009. And a lot of students, I was special officer Usman University, wherein every day we used to face the angry student crowds, and then they used to immolate themselves, and we had to carry the students who immolated themselves to hospitals, and some of them used to die. And then they used to burn the buses left, right, and center because they wanted jobs, they wanted separate Telangana, etc., etc. When you see their parents to collect the bodies, I used to have tears in my eyes. So these people, they have nothing, but the children, they believe that, we have to have separate state, and then after that, the poverty will be liberated from poverty. We'll get a lot of this thing, a lot of education, a lot of employment, so on and so forth. So if I have to do something for these kids, I think we must again invest on education. They were complaining of a lot of lack of facilities, so on and so forth. So that's how then then the amount of impatience, then it could not stop. Then finally, with the help of some professors, I thought, no, we will have a break in the policing. By then, I had completed 17 years. So I wanted to hang my boots and then go to university. So I really worked very hard. Every day, we used to take so many tear gas shells and then stone pelting, but in the night I used to come home and then prepare for GRE and TOEFL. So write GRE, TOEFL, and then got respectable score. Then apply for Harvard. Then I applied for Princeton. I got applied for London School of Economics. I got admission in two. One is London School of Economics. Second is Harvard. So then I selected Harvard, and then I got decent fellowship from Government of India, and then Harvard itself gave me a lot of merit fellowship. So then I completed, and then many people, what they do is then they look for opportunities in international organizations, like go to IMF, go to World Bank, or go to this, go to that. Yeah. So but one is on the day of my graduation in Boston, the Cambridge, Harvard. So I decided that, of course, I was very clear that I should come back to my country. And then I also executed a contract with the government that I'll come back. So then second thing, of course, was we did not waste even a single minute. Immediately we booked the flight and then we came back. Air India was in strike in those days, but somehow we could get the flight. And then we came back. And then first thing I did was I went to Chief Minister and requested him, sir, I took my permission of I took permission from the DG and then requested Chief Minister, sir, please give me education rather than policing. So he was confused for a while, but finally the then Chief Minister and then current Chief Minister also extended my stay. Unusual times, very rarely bureaucrats get tenure more than
5 years, 3-4 years and 5 years.
I
Yeah.
only state Chief Minister is very particular that whoever is doing this kind of work must be allowed to stay there only and then continue the good work. That is something unusual of the government. So this is how I entered into the sector. And then first day, of course, was very turbulent day, very annoying and very depressing day, because some of the union leaders, they went against me and they went on strike, and then they said, no, we don't want a police officer in our organization. But today they are my best friends, and today they are my
I should say.
yeah, so they are the people who are leading the entire revolution. So this is what has brought me into the sector. And not even one day I really felt bored. Every day is a new day. When I look at the children, when I look at their successes, when I look at their smiles, when I look at their parents. So when we were reviewing the VLCs in live television, one of the parents said, sir, we don't know how to speak English. We don't know. My child used to be very introvert, and then ours is the last home in the village, and then people look at with so much of disdain and then so much of contempt. But today my child, because of studying in your school, my child is the commander of village learning cycle, and then whenever she teaches, everybody listens with rapt attention. So this has improved my status in the village. What more do you need? Like that, I have lakhs of people. If every teacher, every officer decides and then takes a break in their routine and then takes a 3 years break and goes to education sector or health sector, I think India will be a education superpower. I cannot talk about economic, but I'll definitely guarantee that India will be a huge powerhouse of education. In fact, we can see Americans and we can see all other countries, instead of going to West, we can bring people towards India if every teacher takes it as a challenge.
So do you think that longevity in this particular role also helped you quite a lot?
Absolutely, absolutely. Stability is extremely important. Otherwise, see, before me, what was the average tenure of any head of the department? It was just 3 to 6 months. In 3 to 6 months, with the lakhs of children you have, and then what kind of things you do?
There
So
was no
it's
consistency per se as such.
consistency, longevity, and then your stability and uh, support and trust are extremely important, and then that have definitely helped me. There is no doubt about it.
There are a lot of people who are asking for the email ID. I think I'm going to send Venkatesh. Devsena as again says. So there are a lot of people who are asking email IDs. I'm going to share email ID of
Yeah,
Sir with all
please
of
do
you in the
share.
chat box. And our team also will kind of, anything you think that we can add value, we will surely be able to kind of reach out. You can drop an email to me, or you can reach out to me, send me a message, and or the WhatsApp number. You can drop a WhatsApp there. We will surely reach back to you. That's one part of it. the last part of the session. I think we have exceeded your time. You just have to give me 10 minutes. Is it okay with you?
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, I just want I should say 2-line statements for people. Okay, first 2-line statement for students from Dr. Praveen Kumar. What is
Never give up.
Never
You're not inferior to anyone. You must never give up in what you want to achieve.
What you want, and be consistent and persistent.
Of course,
This
yes.
should be, yes.
That goes without saying. Yeah.
Second, what is your question to the parents?
You are the best teachers. Share
You are
the
the
burden of teachers. You are the best teachers. And you
Yes.
are the best teachers. You are the first teachers. So share the burden. Share the burden. Don't throw it on teachers alone. You also have the responsibility. And then you are the people who shape the child. For 14% of almost 60% of the time, child stays with you. Only 40% stays in the school. So my message to parents is you are the first teachers. You have a lot of you have more responsibility than the teachers themselves. Yes.
Fine. The third question to all the teachers out, irrespective of government of Telangana, but any teacher, what is your suggestion to them?
The children love from the people. Children learn from the people whom they love. Love is the foundation of teaching. So whether you are a good teacher, whether you're a super subject teacher, it doesn't matter. That's immaterial here. If you love the students, you will learn. If you learn, then you will teach. If you don't love the students, you don't learn. So, and then treat all the students like your own biological children. If you don't teach, you are not even loving your biological children also. You are doing injustice to your biological children also. So love is the foundation. So my message to all the teachers is love or leave. If you can't love the students, then you have to leave the profession.
So that means that emotional connect you are talking about, which is very, very important. Because children love the teacher, then only they love the subject.
Absolutely, absolutely. Love is the foundation for entire learning.
Okay. Now my next question is to the principals. What's your advice to the principals who will be seeing this? And I'm going to use this video also to talk to all the principals, saying that in a public education space, what leadership role is. Not only for that, even in private school. What is your message?
The principals are endowed with infinite authority. More authority than a chief minister, more authority than a prime minister. Principals have the infinite authority. All you have to do is that help your teachers learn every day and then teach. Help them. If you want to teach, okay, no problem. But make your teachers and the students to learn in a very cordial atmosphere, and then help the best principal is the one who builds the capacities of the teachers on a continuous basis, creates that ecosystem in which teachers learn every day. You have to be an enabler, not necessarily a leader and then fault finder, but be an enabler not only for the teachers but the students as well. This is my dream for it. You have infinite authority. If you are the teacher, if you are a principal who transform the system, even the head of the organization, even the politicians also, they can't tinker with you. Just can't. No matter how much ever powerful they are, you have that informal and formal authority. You are the most powerful person. Yeah.
The last in your whole ecosystem is your own colleagues, the bureaucracy, and not only I'm not talking about the civil servant at the higher level, but also the education officers and all the colleagues across the country. What is your message to them? Because one challenge, I have worked with quite a lot of circles. It's a gyan for me too. But again, I think it's important. I have seen if they think they know how to play with English and make the resources available. What is your advice to them?
I didn't get you.
See, all the government officials, they know how to read the English properly, and if they want, they can do anything. That's what I have understood in my little experience for last 30 years in the sector. But what's your advice to them to read English properly and use English properly, or what is your advice to these so-called the government officials who are in the education space?
I think serving in government or private sector, serving in any sector for that matter, is a great opportunity. Everybody has a purpose in this world. So we have to realize that purpose very early. If you realize this purpose when you are incapacitated, that's of no use. So no, that won't help anyone. Realize this purpose early on. So, as Viktor Frankl rightly said, if you know the why of your life, you can bear anyhow. I repeat, if you know why of your life, you can bear anyhow. So, discovering and understanding the why of our life is extremely important. And if you discover it early, then many more people will benefit. So, this is what I have realized. I have realized it at the age of, let's say, 40, 45. But if somebody realizes very early, that will be really realized, because government is the biggest organization you can ever think of, which has been endowed with so many resources. If you have the people who know their why,
Correct.
yeah, who know their purpose, ultimate purpose, and who know their goals, I think nobody can stop them. They can do wonders, wonders, wonders. It's not this only post, any post for that matter. You can do wonders, because the Constitution of India, the chief ministers, the prime ministers, they give so much authority to you. So the cabinet is behind you. So I don't think nobody. I don't think it is really infinite potential. It has infinite potential, and then we must make use of it. If somebody is not using it, I think he or
They
she
are
is
misusing it.
a
It's a
huge,
lost opportunity. It's a lost opportunity. That's what I feel.
absolutely huge wastage of resources. Huge wastage, not ordinary wastage. It's a colossal wastage of resources.
The whole social structure is divided into two. One is private sector, one is public sector. So in the public sector, in the private sector, what is your message to this private sector, and what kind of engagement do you think they need to have when it comes to public education space? Because there is always I see, as a teacher, as a person who's been working with schools, I find that somewhere this divide is widening. What can be the role of both the sides? I'm not saying only the private schools, even the government schools, how they can mix together, because there are a lot of models which have been tried across the country and across the globe. What's your message in this private school space?
I think both are important. Both are important, because both of them they deal
Learning
with
can happen. Yeah.
both of them they deal with the citizens of the same country. There is no difference between there should not be, there must not be any difference between the students in private schools and then the government schools. Both can coexist. Both must in quotes learn from each other. Governments operate with the scale, and governments operate with the most needy, and the private sector operate with the limited population when compared with the government. But
The volume.
private sector has the advantage of experimentation, bringing in the best resources with the kind of investment and the kind of aspirations they have. So both of them must meet. That is what the social welfare and tribal welfare have been doing. When we went for Bharat Darshan, we did not necessarily go to government schools alone. We went to private schools. We learned a lot of our innovations come from the private schools. We have learned and then we improved upon them. So both the sectors will coexist, and then they must share their resources each other. We are not competing against each other, because we are not dealing with citizens of
Right.
two different countries. And even if they are citizens of two different countries, also we should not be fighting against each other, because children are children. They don't have any religion, they don't have any region, they don't have any any other agenda. So I think we need to learn from each other, and then we need to contribute, and then we need to grow together. And then of course governments deal with the most needy, poorest of the poor, and then governments have a major role to play, and then they have a huge social and constitutional responsibility as well. And then private sector also has that responsibility. I don't discriminate between both. And even the teachers among the private sector and public sector must continuously talk to each other. That's one of the reasons why we attend the conferences like yours. So where we make friends with the government teachers, like we private school teachers and the teachers from, like for example, we partner with international baccalaureate schools like Aga Khan Academy. So we learn a lot from Aga Khan Academy teachers. We will learn a lot from Srinidhi International School. We learn a lot from CBSE schools, ICSE schools. We go to Vidyaranya schools, where free education is there, education freedom schools. Now we have about 70 to 80 freedom schools. So not that we learned only from government schools, we learned from private schools, alternative education models. We brought the best. So without that kind of experimenting private sector, probably government sector also would not do. So I don't want to juxtapose them against each other and then pitch them as
No,
arch
no, that's
rival.
what I was looking that the partnership model needs to be strengthened quite a
Absolutely,
lot.
there has to be a
That is, yeah, because that will only bring in that social fabric into coexisting each other. And education is the only place where I think we can bring them and gel them quite well.
absolutely.
I will not take much of your time. I just would take 1 minute to just quickly sum up. the participants who are there who are going to see this particular video even after this particular session, my key takeaways is I have learned a little bit of quality in my journey. What it always talked about is some basic fundamentals. The first and the foremost basic fundamental, what I have picked up from Dr. Praveen Kumar is stakeholder focus. In a business sense, it is called as customer focus. I call it as a stakeholder focus. If you're focused on your stakeholders, you will find ways, means, and resources, which he said so beautifully when it came to making a difference to the larger sector. And if the focus is there, you understand what their needs are. Forget about their expectation. At least can we fulfill their needs? I think that's point number one. Point number two, what Dr. Praveen talked about today's session is leadership. He kind of talked about very important the leadership, and that particularly leadership which he has shown himself quite beautifully that he is a leader and he gets into the classroom, he gets into nitty-gritties. Even we have been having conversation offline, online, on different forums. I think we've been talking about how do we empower this particular leadership. And he spoke so well about saying that the space is available for the leader which cannot be provided by anybody else. So leadership, I think, which is very, very critical, is important. The third important thing which came out from the conversation is that the stakeholder engagement, which came out quite explicitly from is that the engagement with the community. And he talked very beautifully about not only about the panchayats, he talked about the parents, he talked about the private school, he talked about IB schools, he talked about ICC schools. He said that, can we meet? And I think through this particular forum, I can always invite the private schools also to come and, mutually share. There is nothing. See, nobody can ape you. Nobody can copy you. And I would like to say that when he is taking up the names of certain things, I think you should also be feeling independent or free to use certain things that I picked up this particular idea from here. And I think we should be shameless when it comes to learning. So I think that's where the stakeholder engagement is very, very important. The fourth point which I picked up from Sir is today, Dr. Praveen Kumar, is that he talked very beautifully about this benchmarking part of it very subtly. He never said that word benchmarking in a corporate term, but he said benchmarking. What benchmarking basically meant here is that look out for the practices which can add value to yourself. So if there is a practice which is done somewhere else, how do I try to make sure? And then the last important thing is that don't focus only on the topic. Even when I gave him data of IIT and other universities, he said a very interesting point. I don't know how many of you caught this, but then I thought I should kind of, tell you about that, because that is where something I think it's important. The last child in the classroom, the last child in the school, is that particular person happy? If that child is happy, I think the educational experience in any school can be happy. I think which came out quite explicitly from him, saying that there is a need. You try to find out what kind of learner he is, what are his aspirations. And this is where the stakeholder engagement plays all that role. So Dr. Praveen Kumar, I think I can only wish you success. Our support from my side and from my team side is always exists with you. It has been a wonderful journey with you also. Every time whenever I have kind of, called up or traveled with him, spoken about different issues of the challenges, I think it has been fantastic experience. So we continue this. We would like to continue this engagement and dialogue with you. Maybe this session was very, very small, but I've got a lot of questions, a lot of things which is coming. I'm not touching them, but only thing I can say, all the best to you and to all those unsung team which is behind you. Those children who are working in those villages, I would like to salute them also as teachers, because it is very, very important that such teachers are the future teachers, what we can look at. Your mission, let it continue. You get all the support from the government, and we need many, many, many such officers in the bureaucracy who understand what education is. And I think it's truly एक टीचर का बेटा टीचर नहीं होता. That's a normal saying, but I think you proved it otherwise. So thank you very much. Namaste. Stay safe, and my wishes to your team, and continue the good work.
Thank you very much, everybody. I wish you all the very best. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Any last words that you would like to share about the program and anything? Because I would like to hear a feedback from you.
I really like Dr. Sendil. You never stop mesmerizing us. You never stop inspiring us, and please keep guiding us. Please keep connecting us to a lot of outstanding people. You are the person who introduced us, or connected us to the best in the world, best in the country. So we would like to learn from every organization, be it private, be it government, be it aided, be it vernacular or be it national, be it international. We want to learn from every organization which is doing things differently, and then which is doing things to achieve a purpose. So thank you very much for being with us, and then thank you very much for inviting me. And then I wish you all the very best, and then see you in the next meeting, perhaps sooner once the COVID comes down.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste.